Windows Defender. If you've ever had a computer connected to the internet or used email before, which is most likely every single person that's ever going to watch this video, then you're at risk for spyware and other infectious, nasty programs that'll attempt to either bog your computer down with advertisements or tools to try and gather information about you, things like your surfing habits, your confidential files, and of course your passwords. Spyware, it's a big problem that over the last couple of years has gotten much worse, and it's spawned a whole range of new programs that are designed to prevent your computer from getting spyware in the first place and removing it from your computer if you do happen to be unlucky enough to get infected. Now, Windows Defender is Microsoft's answer to this spyware problem, and it has been around for a while as a free beta download for Windows, but only now has been released as a full product, and it comes included with Windows Vista. Now, the great news is that by default, when you first install Windows Vista, Windows Defender is automatically started up to protect your computer immediately. So let's take a look at what options we have with Windows Defender. So to start it up, we'll come down here, we'll click on Start, we'll fire up the control panel, then we'll choose Security, and finally, Windows Defender. Okay, now, if everything is normal as we'd hope it should be, on this homepage you're going to see this big green tick here telling us that our PC is running normally and Windows Defender hasn't detected anything nasty. Now, down the bottom here of this opening screen, we can see the last time our computer was scanned and when it's set to scan automatically. Now, by the way, if your PC isn't turned on when this scan here is set to run, then the next time we fire up Vista, it's going to run our scan automatically in the background, so you don't have to worry that if you don't ever have your PC on here at 2 a.m. in the morning, then your scan won't run. It will run, but it'll run the next time you start up your computer. And since it's not particularly memory or CPU intensive, you probably won't even know that it's running away in the background. Okay, well, we can see here that real-time scanning is turned on, so any file we download or run will be checked to see if it contains spyware, which is great. And finally, we can see the latest definition version we have and when it was last updated. Now, at the top of this window, we've got 5 options here, the first being Home, which will just bring you back to this page where we are right now. Scan is where we can start a scan of our PC. History lets us see what Windows Defender has been up to, and we have Tools and Help. But let's skip right through to Tools now, and we'll come back and we'll take a look at the other ones here in a moment. Okay, well, here on our Tools page, we've got 6 icons to look at. Now, the first here is Options, and whilst you can change the options here in Windows Defender, in most cases, you probably won't even bother. So we can see that Windows Defender is set to automatically scan our computer daily at 2 a.m. using a quick scan. And like I said earlier, if your computer isn't turned on at this time, 2 a.m., then the scan will begin automatically the next time you start your computer. Now, before you start the scan, it can also check with Microsoft to see if there are any new updated definitions that it can use. So if you like that setting, simply check this box. Now, in the event that it does find spyware or something on our PC that shouldn't be there, we can also choose to apply the default action to whatever it finds. Now, I know you're going to want to know what these default actions are, and in the next section, if we scroll down a little bit here, you can see here that for high, medium, and low alert items, we're going to use the default action. So if we click on this Understanding Windows Defender Alert Levels hyperlink here, you can see what Windows Defender is going to do by default if it finds spyware on your computer. So for anything that's been classified here as severe or a high alert level, the default action is going to be to remove this software immediately. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, you can see we've got medium and low alert levels. And if software is classified into any of these 2 categories, it won't delete the software, but it is going to ask you whether you want to keep it or not. Now, finally, down here, we also have an unclassified category, which are typically programs where Windows Defender doesn't yet have a definition for it, but it's flagged it as something to look at, and you can make a choice whether you want to allow it to run or not. Now, with all of these alert levels, they're taken from the definitions themselves. So when your computer is being scanned for spyware, if it finds something, the definition will check against its database, and it will classify the program into one of these categories, and then it will perform one of these actions, from removing it to basically doing nothing at all. Now, even though our alert levels here are set to perform the default action, you can change this if you like by setting these to either the default action. Of course, we can ignore it, or we could simply remove the software altogether. Okay, now under our real-time protection settings, we can see that by default we are using real-time protection, and I couldn't imagine why you'd want to turn this off, as Windows Defender will actively scan all items on your computer in real time as you're using it. And we can see that by all of these checkboxes here, that these things here will be included in our real-time scan, and that includes programs that start automatically when Windows starts, hardware and software security settings. We've got Internet Explorer add-ons, configurations, and downloads that include ActiveX controls. Now also, services and drivers will be scanned, and along with any other applications that you start or applications that try to register themselves to start at any time. For example, if you're using a scheduled task, and then finally, Windows add-ons. Now we can also get Windows Defender to notify us if there's any applications found that have not yet been classified as a risk, and any software that we've allowed to run that makes changes to Windows, but of course by default you can see that these two things are turned off. Okay, so if we scroll down a little bit further, under our Advanced Options heading, we can see that Windows Defender will scan archived folders and files for potential threats. Now, it will also use heuristics to try and detect spyware for software that could be potentially flagged as a risk. And for those of you that don't know what heuristics means, heuristics basically means to discover. And this technology scans file structures to determine if a file has a high probability of being spyware. Now, whilst this isn't an exact science, and sometimes it can block legitimate files, it's still useful because it can be effective against files that contain new spyware that definitions aren't yet available for, and antivirus programs have been using heuristics for years. Now finally, the default here is to create a system restore point before applying either a remove or ignore action to the detected items. That way you can restore your system to the point it was before you attempted to action any affected files. Now if you don't want Windows Defender to scan certain files or directories, you can come over here and click on the Add button, and then you can browse to the file or folder and simply click OK, and then it will be added into this list here, and it will be excluded from being included in the scan. Alright, now the final two options we have at the bottom here are to use Windows Defender. So if for some reason you don't want to use it, and this would most likely be that you have another third-party anti-spyware program, then you can turn Windows Defender off right here. And the final option is to allow everyone to use Windows Defender, so regular users of this computer are able to start their own scans if they like. Now, by the way, if you do choose to turn Windows Defender off, and you go and have a look at the services that are running on Vista, you'll see that the Windows Defender service will remain set to automatic, but the service will not start until you come back into the control panel here and re-enable it. So if you happen to be looking throughout the services MMC and you see that it's set to automatic when you've turned Windows Defender off, don't worry, when you reboot your computer, it won't be restarted again until you manually come back in here and tell Windows Defender to start up again. Now, most of the options that you've seen here, you probably won't want to or need to change at all, unless, of course, you're running a third-party anti-spyware application, in which case you'd simply just want to turn Windows Defender off altogether. Okay, well, the next option we have here is to join the Microsoft SpyNet community. And if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see here that by default, we're not actually joining Microsoft SpyNet. But if you'd like to join, you can join with a basic or an advanced membership. And a basic membership simply entails that Windows Defender will send Microsoft information about any software that it detects, including where the software came from and any actions that were applied by you or by Windows Defender. Now, it also says that on occasions personal information may be sent to Microsoft, which a lot of people won't like, although Microsoft does claim that this information won't be shared by anyone. Now, the other option here we have is to join the Microsoft Spynet community with the advanced membership, which is basically the same as the basic membership, but it will send additional information to Microsoft, and of course, we can turn this feature off. Now, obviously, it's up to you what you decide to do here. You can choose between helping combat spyware by being included in the program, sending some information to Microsoft that may help them update and improve their definitions to make the product a bit more effective overall, or you could save a little bit of bandwidth and make your life a little more private by simply not joining the program. Okay, well, the next option we have here is to take a look at the quarantined items that Windows Defender has prevented our computer from running. Now, from here, obviously, you can see that I don't have any suspect items that I've downloaded, but if you do have applications that have been quarantined, you can select them from this list, and then you can choose to either remove it, remove all of them, or you can restore the application if it happens to be something that you know and trust and has been accidentally quarantined. Alright, well, the next option we have down here is Software Explorer, and this will show you all of the software that's currently running on your computer, and this is rather good since back in Windows XP, to get this sort of information, you'd have to run a tool called msconfig, but it's all here in Windows Defender, and it actually tells you even more information. So from our drop-down box here, we can choose to display the programs that are registered to start when Windows Vista starts, and since spyware is almost always set to automatically start when Windows starts, it can be useful to come in here and to see what is registered to start up automatically. In fact, if we click on Start and simply type in msconfig and we'll hit Enter, and we'll click Continue on our user account control message, and if we go and click on the Startup tab, you can see here the items that are configured to run when this PC starts up. Now, if we go back to Windows Defender, you can see over here that in this right-hand pane, we've got a lot more information about each program, much more than msconfig shows, so this is rather useful. Alright, well, up here in our drop-down box, if we select that, we could choose to show our currently running programs, and here we can see all of the software that's running right now on this PC. And you can also end the process if you'd like to terminate the application, and we can launch the Task Manager. Now also, if we choose our network connected programs, and let's go and quickly launch one so we can show something here. Let's go and launch Internet Explorer. Now if we quickly minimize this and we'll go back here and we'll hit refresh. Now you can see our network connected application here in this window, but down here on the right we can also choose to block any incoming connections for this application, and that's rather useful. Now by default though, only applications and processes are being shown for the currently logged on user, so if you want to see everything that's currently running on your computer, you can come down here and click on this button and then show all applications for all users. So if we click this and then click Continue on our user account control message, now we can see everything that's going on our Vista computer. Alright. Now the next option we have down here is to display the items that we've explicitly allowed to run on our computer, and by default you can see that there aren't any, but any applications that we add in here will then not be monitored by Windows Defender, but once you remove them from this list, they'll then fall under the normal rules and once again be monitored for spyware. Alright, well, the final option we have down here is to visit the Windows Defender website where you can get more information on the product, or even download it for Windows XP and Windows 2003 operating systems. But since it comes inbuilt with Windows Vista, and any updates to the product are delivered via Windows Update, then I must admit it's not much use to us really. Alright, well the next option we'll have a look at is History. And as you'd probably expect, this will show us any programs that have been flagged whether they've been blocked or not. And here you can see we've got a few unknown entries, and you'll probably see a few of your own on your system as well, especially once you've installed a few applications. Since Windows errs on the side of caution, and if it's unsure if something that you're running is suspect or not, you're going to see it listed here. Alright, well, the final option we have at the top here is to run a scan on our computer. And if we select this little drop-down box here, we could run a quick scan which only scans the areas of your computer that spyware is most likely to affect, such as the registry, startup programs, and the Windows folder, or we can perform a full scan, which obviously scans the whole computer, and we can choose a custom scan where we can choose the drives or folders that we want to scan. So if we choose custom and then click on the select button, we can then choose which drives or folders that we want to scan. So let's just scan our C drive here, and we'll click on OK. Now once you've made your choices whether to perform a quick, full, or custom scan, simply click on Scan Now, and Windows Defender will go off and begin scanning your computer immediately. But if for some reason you want to stop the scanning, simply come up here and click on the Stop Scan button, and the scan will stop immediately, which is rather nice. It doesn't drag on waiting to finish something, which is something I ordinarily hate. Now that's basically it. The Windows Defender anti-spyware program is a simple yet powerful tool built into Windows Vista, and it's also available as a download for Windows XP with Service Pack 2 or Windows 2003 with Service Pack 1. So unless you're running a third-party anti-spyware application, I can't imagine why you'd want to turn this feature off. If you've ever had spyware on your computer before, you'll no doubt be glad that Microsoft has built Windows Defender into Vista and configured it to run by default. Now, if you've never had spyware before, count yourself lucky and rejoice in the fact that hopefully with Windows Defender running, you'll always be lucky enough to enjoy private, safe computing free from those nasty spyware surprises.